What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks once again for lending me your ears and for stopping by to check out the very first episode of this new series called Behind the Bike. Before we get into this episode with today's guest, I think it's first of all important to mention that this episode is by no means aiming to sell you the bike featured or any of the bikes featured moving forward. I think right now it's almost impossible to buy, air quotes, a bad bike. And if you are looking to invest some of your hard-earned cash on a new bike, whether it be sub 1,000 or over 10,000 pounds, euros, dollars, whatever, then it is important to do your research. Go speak to your local bike shop, read as many reviews as you can, and if you can, book a demo ride, do that. That is my advice. Go ride the damn thing that you're looking to spend your money on. The premise of this podcast, however, is to take you guys a little bit more behind what goes on to bring these bikes to market. So I'm going to be speaking to guys that, are involved in marketing, product development, engineers, brand owners, and also pro riders that all work together to take these bikes from design concept all the way through to being on a shop floor, winning races, or whatever it is. It's also going to be a really interesting journey for me. And one thing I'll openly admit is I do struggle to understand how a bike works, how to set it up properly, and really feel what's going on with a bike. So as I'm learning, I'm hopefully going to be able to pass this information on to you guys, and we can all go on this sort of journey together to be able to decipher what a bike does and what it doesn't do. So the bike featured on this very first episode is the Marin Mount Vision 9. It sits in the middle of the build options. It's a 150mm trail bike. Marin described it as an all-mountain, made for trail popping, playful, up, down, and everything in between. It's got a super high spec for the money, which includes a full unidirectional carbon frame. It has Fox 36 Performance Elite forks, a Fox Flow X2 rear shock, SRAM Eagle group set with Descent carbon cranks, Shimano XT brakes. It's got a KS Lev Integra dropper post, deity finishing kit on the cockpit, and most importantly, it features the nailed React 2-play suspension system, which we're going to get into really shortly. This bike retails at around £6,500. I've been riding it for around a month now. If you live in the UK like myself, you'll know that for the last 3 weeks, depending on when you listen to this episode, but pretty much the whole of June, it's been raining. So I feel like I've given it a pretty good test as regards to the grip and general functionality of the bike. I've managed to get out and ride a bunch of different locations as well, and different terrains, from big loops in the Peak District. I've done some really rocky stuff as well. Been on a bike park day, so I feel like I've really given this thing a good test. One thing I also tried to do after unboxing this bike was not read a single review or have any pre-contrived notions as to what and how this bike will perform. The only thing I did check was the sag settings, because they are quite different on this bike, and also just gave it a quick bolt check out the box, set up the lever positions, all that sort of stuff, seat post height, etc. Just your standard stuff, but the bike tested was 100% brand new. It came in a box, like you'd buy one yourself from your local bike shop, and I built it up and then just took to the trails. Anyway, rather than me blabber on from here, I'm going to hand over to our first guest of this episode, who is Matt Sipes. He is the full suspension product manager at Marin. Then I'm going to hand over to John Aldale, who is the international marketing manager, to discuss how he tackled bringing a bike that's so unique to market. So without further ado, let's hand over to Matt and then John. Enjoy this episode, guys. It'd be great to hear what you think on this new concept for a podcast. All right, over to Matt. So, what's the name again? Matthew Sipe.
It's Matthew Sipes.
Sipes
is how it's pronounced. But
so some people have called you Sipe.
Yeah, so
John calls you
Sippy.
Sippy.
Sippy is my nickname. And that came about riding bikes as it was a joke, because there's a lot of telemarketers in the United States, and they always used to call my house. It was Mr. Kipe's there, Sippy's, Sips, Kipes. And so, riding trails, this was back in 2001. I was on the trail, my buddy was behind me, he's like, come on, Sippy, Sips, go faster, and it just stuck, and I've been called Sippy ever since.
Okay. It works.
So, yeah, even when I worked at Specialized, Mike Sinyard called me Sippy.
Okay, all right, okay. So, and your job at Marin?
I am the mountain bike full suspension product manager.
Awesome. And you're based out in California?
Yep, we are. We recently just moved the office from Novato, which was in Marin County, to Petaluma, which is essentially the first city outside of Marin County in Sonoma County. So, but
what's the reason for that?
it's a very expensive place.
Marin
County is one of the most expensive places to live in the United States.
Right.
And simply speaking, for a mountain bike company or cycling company, that's really not a good place to be. Hiring new talent. The average, if you make under $160,000 a year in the Bay Area, you're considered under poverty level.
Is that right?
So it's pretty hard when we're looking for good talent. So, but we couldn't move too far because a lot of the employees were already based out of there. So we moved up the road to Petaluma.
Got you. Okay, cool. All right. So, how long have you been at Marin, and sort of like what's the timeline to you landing at Marin in your job?
So, right when I started as the mountain bike product manager. So that was instant, and that was started in June 2015.
Okay.
June 5th, 2015 to be exact.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So
right after. No, it's Independence Day is July the 4th.
Correct.
All right. So a month before, a day behind.
It was actually. The move was like in line with our bill of material cycles.
Right.
At my previous job, I was in charge of all the bill of materials, and I didn't want to leave everyone hanging. So I finished that and then basically left.
Okay. And so what have you done before?
To rewind it to the beginning,
Let's do it.
Fell in love with mountain biking about the age of 16, roughly. Skateboarding, doing stuff. LA's got a lot of different things where I grew up.
Yeah.
So mountain biking is not something you really correlate with Los Angeles, but had a buddy who got me into it. Absolutely loved it from the first ride. Fast forward a little bit, I'm in college. I'm riding a ton, like 9 times a week.
Right.
And basically skipping class to go ride. And I was like, what? I want to get a job in the industry because I love bicycles. And my dad said, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Dude, yeah, same. I got that advice. Apart from my dad, sorry. Tried to make me work at a funeral director's. Because he was like, well, everyone is always going to die. There'll always be a job. I was like,
that's pretty
kind
grim.
Of makes sense, but yeah, it's pretty grim. I don't think I want to do that for the rest of my life, but okay.
Anyway. Yeah. So, got a degree in manufacturing engineering with a minor in supply chain and operations management. Also worked at a bike shop while I was there in school for about 5 years. I was in school for about 6. Okay. Also was heavily involved in the collegiate cycling team. I was president of the cycling team for a bit and focused on downhill racing. I did not really like to waste time with cross-country racing. It's fun, but I don't like that kind of pain and suffering.
No.
And then I just, graduated, didn't really know what I wanted to do in terms of where to go, so I threw resumes everywhere. But I didn't leave Chico, where I went to school, because I didn't want to move until I found something solid. And I got a job at Paul Components, doing assembly for him.
All right.
So I was assembling Melvins and retro brake levers and doing that. Did that for about a year, and then had a pretty big injury on the downhill bike.
Were you racing downhill then at that sort of time?
Yeah, I was racing a lot of downhill. I was in the semi-pro class at the time because it was kind of coming off the Norba days. So it was, Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, semi-pro, pro. So I'd started racing in the expert class, which is Cat 1, and then moved into semi-pro. And then was doing a race, underground race in Humboldt actually, and had a pretty bad get-off. It's funny, I won the race because it was best of 2 runs.
Okay.
And I really thought my buddy was going to turn up the heat, so I turned up the heat as well, turned it up a bit too much.
Go to 11.
Yeah, and I got bucked off and hit a tree and broke separated my pelvic ring from my tailbone and was in a wheelchair for 4 months and a little grim there. Didn't know if I was going to ride a bike again.
Yeah.
But it all worked out because I got a job at Specialized when I got all healed up. Actually got back to Chico and was looking for jobs again, and then this. It's funny, a helmet technician position opened up at Specialized. And I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to apply for that. Yeah. And my buddy who worked there, who I worked in the bike shop with in Chico, was like, oh, you don't want that job. I got this other job that they haven't seen posted yet. It was for a suspension technician.
Okay.
And so I got that job. I did that for about 3 years, and then kind of transitioned into, I was the main tech for the AFR program, so E150, S120, Brain Shock, and Command Post.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool to be on the cutting edge of the command post and the dropper post scene.
Yeah.
So I kind of transitioned into being the product manager for the command post and then moved into technical product development. So the Bennies, the boom slangs, the SRL, that's all stuff that I worked on.
Right.
Did a lot of the bar development and then managed the bill of materials for all the high-end mountain bikes at Specialized. So Camber, Epic, Enduro, Demo, Stump Jumper, Hardtail, about 110 models all in all.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and did that. So I worked at Specialized for about 7 years and 6 days, actually.
7 years and 6 days.
Yeah, I remember that. And so I learned a lot, amazing experience. It was like drinking from a fire hydrant.
Really?
Yeah, just anything you want to learn there. It's the best place to learn.
Right.
Yeah,
Big corporate environment as well there, a lot of money behind it.
It is, but it's still a bike company,
Yeah.
but, a lot of competition, a lot of alphas, a lot of, so really pushing each other, which is really cool because everyone was kind of pushing each other to be better than the rest. So it really excelled the whole environment. So if you can handle that environment, it's really, really good.
It's not for everybody, man, is it?
It's not for everyone.
No, it's not.
No, but so that was a great learning experience and, fantastic time working there.
Yeah.
And then, a very unique position came up to be product manager for Marin Bikes.
Awesome.
And I jumped on the opportunity. Actually, Aaron Abrams, the other product manager, also used to work at Specialized with me, so I knew him pretty well. We started at the same time. So I shot him over my resume and bada bing, bada boom.
Here we are.
Here we are.
In rainy England.
Yeah.
So how long have you been at Marin now?
4 years.
4 years.
Just over 4 years.
Okay,
So
sweet.
yeah.
Perfect.
June 5th was my 4th year anniversary.
Okay, rad. Yeah, okay. So the reason for doing this whole series then was to talk about the Mount Vision. I've been riding it for like 3 weeks, nearly a month.
Nice.
Honestly, man, love it.
Thank you.
Legit. I mean, I was like most people, maybe a little skeptical at first because you look at it out of the box and it's definitely a polarizing bike. Is it safe to say? It's polarizing.
That's one way to say it.
Yeah, it's polarizing. I feel like it's one of those bikes that once you finish riding, you go to the pub and everyone's talking. 9 times out of 10, that bike's going to come up into conversation and people are going to look at it and go, ah. But I really, really like the look of it. And I always have. I have. So I've been riding it for 3 weeks. I've ridden a load of different stuff. It's been raining here for about 3 weeks. Ever since that bike got delivered, I think it's been raining every day.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. But I've been super impressed with it, dude. And
Great.
the reason for doing this isn't to try and sell the bike to people that are listening to the podcast. It's more to give people the backstory of it. So the Mount Vision has been around for a long time. It's in the range, but it's only recently taken on the nailed React
That's correct.
suspension system.
Yeah.
From my research so far, you've used it already on the Wolf Ridge,
Correct.
which was a 29er last year. So this is the first time it's been on the Mount Vision.
That is correct. Yeah, we
Okay,
essentially 2017 was the last year the Mount Vision was in the line as essentially a flexing stay suspension system. We retired it at that time, knowing what we were going to do, and at that point we kind of switched eyes from the Wolf Ridge to the Mount Vision to make sure that it was knocking off on all cylinders and as best as it could be.
Okay, got you.
So.
I enjoyed actually researching a little bit into the nail system because I don't own a bike shop, I'm not a Marin dealer, I didn't really know too much about the bike. And I just figured it was something that you guys had designed, but it's not, it's a separate business.
That's correct. Yeah, it's a company called Nailed, and it's ran by some industry veterans who been working a long time in the industry for almost 25 years. So really knowledgeable. Used to actually work at Klein, some of the guys,
That's right.
and at RockShox
Voss,
and
Darren
stuff on
Voss?
tour. Yeah, that's exactly. Daryl Voss. He's the main man behind it.
Yeah.
And he's really been formulating the ideas to bring this suspension system to the market for over 18 years, I think.
Wow.
So it's been a long road for him.
Yeah.
And I mean, Marin has been working on it for now 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
Wow.
the Wolf Ridge was about a 5-year development project.
That's crazy how long it takes for it to come to market though, right?
Yeah, when you have something that new and that unknown, you really got to do your homework, and it takes a long time to do all the 3D
So this is
study.
kind of already happening before you'd even joined the company.
Yeah, so the Wolf Ridge, I basically came in and it was, it was 90% done. Basically, like, all right, that geometry is good, move forward. But so the Mount Vision was really, a full. I got to do all the brush strokes of that one, so to speak.
Right.
So that was very fun to do that from the ground up.
Yeah.
But we just really wanted to take advantage of all the inherent traits of the 27 5-inch wheel with the nailed suspension system to bring that magnificent beast to market. So.
I think, what I was curious about was how does it all come around? So there's a separate company. How do you, bring it all together, if that makes sense? Because the whole bike's got to be entirely redesigned.
Yeah.
And the nailed system is quite small in comparison to the rest of the bike, but it all has to work perfectly.
Yes.
That make sense?
Yeah, so we start with a product brief, right? We have this and that, geometry, desires, the way we want the kinematics to feel. And we usually are explaining the kinematics based on the previous one. So we took what we had on the Wolf Ridge, we're like, we like this, we want this, we wanted to do that, and fine-tuning it to better match the 27 5-inch wheel.
Okay.
So, it is an individual bike project each time. The kinematics are specifically done for that bike to match what we're looking for in it. So we start by going to Nailed with that. They start working on the kinematics and, the rear end and then, and how that's going to work. And then we get the industrial designers on the aesthetics of it. They basically take all the kinematic hard points and that and try to give us a bunch of shapes and options. And then we say yes or no. Wow. It's like history of the world, like no, yes, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's real fun. I like the design reviews. That's a good time.
I bet.
And we usually go through a couple different design reviews of the bike throughout it.
So how many people have been involved at that point to get it to there?
Marin is a relatively small company, so compared to the bigger dogs, a lot less. So we have many less gates of approval.
Okay.
So we can move pretty fast, which is cool. So the myself as the product manager, the director of product, the CEO has some say in it because he's kind of a product guy himself.
Okay.
So really all the stakeholders in the project, as well as some key markets, get their feedback on it, and then kind of just commit and jump in the deep end.
Right.
And spend the money on tooling and just move.
Go to market. Right. Okay. So if you could just try and talk people through, if they've not seen the Nailed suspension system, are you able just to describe what it does and how it works? Because again, from riding it, it's one of those things that unless you've ridden it, you kind of can't understand how it works.
Absolutely.
Pedaling traction uphill is insane. It's really, really, really good.
And it's a very hard thing to explain because we look at all of our suspension systems now, and they all can be defined with a certain vocabulary: anti-squat, anti-rise, leverage ratio. Those still matter, but as Big Lebowski said, new shit has come to light. So with Daryl and what they've done for this system is they've really looked at a lot of things that no one has looked at before. The center of mass, the acceleration of that mass with the bike, how that affects the suspension system, how that compresses, what that means with the damping. So essentially, the big defining factor in the Nailed system is an elevated swing arm like a moto with that sliding structure that looks very odd to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that is the heart of the Nailed system and really what allows it to control the forces of pedal input to acceleration to the mass compressing the suspension in a different way where you can remove damping, not have pedal lockouts or any type of switches, and have a bike that is more efficient than a hardtail. Okay. And the reason it can be is because you're not locking out your suspension, you're maintaining traction to the ground, but at the same time you're not losing any efficiency through the system.
Right.
So in that way, it's quite magical.
No, dude, I agree, to be honest. And it was really interesting because I took the bike out of the box and I purposely didn't look at any reviews. I just wanted to ride it. But initially I was like, so where's the lockout on the shock? That's a little weird, okay. Is he going to be loads of pedal bob as he pedal it, as he cranking up hills or over rocky, steep stuff? And I think that really helps, actually. The thing is, not everyone can do that, right? Not everyone can just get a new bike out of the box that's worth quite a lot of money and just not have any review or any idea how it's going to perform. So I'm really lucky in that respect. But I think it's the best way to get into this bike because then you've got no perceived notion of how it's going to perform. And that's one thing that I spoke to John about, who's up next. I did then read a review, and the reviewee said it's quite dormant feeling, and it's not very poppy. And I was like, I feel exactly the opposite. I feel like you can throw this thing around everywhere. It's quite conservative on the numbers. 65-degree head angle.
Yep, 65-degree head tube angle, 70, I think 5.6 depending on the size seat tube angle.
Right.
Effective.
Yeah. Okay.
425 chainstay, I want to say, but it's got a lot of other numbers in my head, so it's hard.
I should have written those down, man. I'm sorry. But all the geometry figures and stuff are in the show description for people listening. And there's a link to Marin's website and a product video and stuff too. But it's weird because a lot of people will read a review and initially think that, they said this. Do you know what I mean? But it's really, you've got to get out there and ride this thing because as well, I felt that it's really good at tracking as well over bumps. So you feel like you're going forward all the time.
Yeah, and that's one of the elements of it. Because the reduced damping, it can get out of the way, but also because it also has reduced damping on the rebound, so it also can get back to where it means.
Yeah.
And so that's like a little pump track rider, pumping every downside, giving you free speed.
And it's not until you ride it that you can really feel that.
Yeah, and we call this, for marketing terms, ground tracing.
Ground tracing, like it.
So, but...
No, it works, for sure. Like I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed riding this bike so far. And that's just not me like blowing smoke up your guys' ass because you sat here. But I have enjoyed it. I really, really have enjoyed it.
Nice.
So anything else you want to talk about as regards to the Mount Vision and like the product development side of it? How long does it take to go from, right, we've got the nail system kind of figured out, we've got a rough idea of geometry. What's the process then to getting this thing to market?
The hardest part with the Mount Vision is, so the Wolf Ridge was fantastic and we loved the way it rode. But one thing about it is it felt very much like a planted downhill bike, almost a V10 type of feel when the V10 first came out, where it's hard to get off the ground, it's very, very planted. And moving to the 27 5-inch wheels with this bike on Mount Vision, we wanted to make sure we weren't losing that poppy feel, popping wheelies, pumping out of turns, popping big air, that is so critical for that smaller wheel rider. It's really that experience they're looking for. So, we look at that with the engineers and go, how do we add that back into the kinematics? And, so basically asking ourselves all these questions about how to make something better, how to do it right. And then as the product manager, I go and challenge my engineers. They give me some scenarios.
Usually like boardroom stuff, or is it like out on the trails?
It's a mix of everything. We'll go out, a lot of the development time and a lot of my best ideas actually happen when I'm riding a bike. I'll just be staring, climbing a hill, staring out and just be like, oh, what if we did this or what if we did that? Yeah. And then I'll take it back and I'll send some notes. Even sometimes I'll take notes at the top of the hill on my phone and even shoot an email to Daryl Voss. I'm like, I'm thinking about this, and then he'll call me later and we'll powwow about it, and so it's a very fun process. It's exactly like you kind of think it was.
Right, really. Okay,
you get your stakeholders, you get the people that you want to get feedback from. You get them, you show them the geometry, you show them the numbers, you talk about what you want to do, you get their feedback. But the key thing for a product manager is everyone's got an opinion, right?
Yeah.
It's knowing which opinions to listen to.
Priceless information, that I think. Priceless, yeah. That's very true. Yeah. Very true. It's the same with everything, dude. Like business, life, everything. And everyone thinks there's some sort of bike reviewer. Which is one thing that when I did this, I didn't want to come from that angle, because I'm not. But what I want to do with this whole series is try and learn to be better at riding bikes, but also understanding how they're working. And I think this was a perfect bike to kickstart this journey on, because it is so different. It's kind of so unique to most of the stuff on the market. So the benchmark, though, for me, I feel is pretty high right now.
Yeah, for sure. So. And that's what that system does. It really, after I rode it for the first time, I'm talking about traditional suspension systems, and then this new suspension system with the React 2 Play, because it really is, in a way, in a league of its own in performance. We can really, with the multi-track bikes, we focus on fundamentals and good shock tuning, same thing like everyone else, but we really have an upper hand with the React 2 Play system and the reduced damping and the way it works.
Okay.
So,
as far as like the service of stuff of the nailed system goes, is that, there's a slider there. Does that take much?
It's just as any other sliding structure, so it's actually a 50-hour interval to just clean the wiper seal and check it out.
Right.
A 200-hour interval for checking out the insides, checking the bushing, and re-lubing the inside. But in most cases that we found, it really just takes a re-lube, like just cleaning it out and putting it back together. It really doesn't need that much extra maintenance.
Right. And that system then, just to go back, is the swing arm and the slider. So the linkages they're all your add-ons.
So the linkage and the rear end are all engineered and essentially made by Nailed.
Right.
And then we're buying essentially that finished engineered good that matches perfectly with our idea of the bicycle and bringing that into production. And that's a bit different than our model with the multi-track bikes, where it's 100% ground up from us.
Yeah.
So, we just work with the Nailed team to make sure that it has all the things that we're looking for in it. But that rear suspension system, bolts, axles, everything is really engineered and made by Nailed, and then we bring it, and so we source the front triangle, bring it together on the assembly floor, but it's all designed as one, all engineered as one.
Got you. Okay.
So that's pretty cool.
And right now there's only yourselves and Polygon that's using the system.
That's correct.
Are you aware of anyone else who's trying to jump on this? Because, with it being so unique, other manufacturers maybe get on it?
I'm told there's another, but I'm not allowed to say who it is or when they're going to come to market with it.
I just feel like someone else should use it. I mean, it is good.
It's quite good.
There's a lot of years though to get it.
Yeah, it's not
like an instant.
It's not easy,
it
and it wasn't cheap.
Right.
You know, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and leaving skin on the trail, and maybe a couple. You know, just like a family, there's going to be some tough choices and discussions. But you know, it's in the end, it's an amazing system that brings a lot to the table, and it's truly the first new suspension design we've seen in our industry in years.
Yeah, it is for sure. And how's the response been from your side of things, as far as like media kickback and all that stuff?
The media stuff has been fantastic. You know, I think where we run into problems is people who take aesthetics over performance. And I think the look of it is it's very untraditional compared to other bikes, and I think that's hard for people to get on board with.
Yeah. I've been asked by 3 people, how do you like your e-bike?
Yeah, and so that's hard as well. And you know, the reason the tubes are so big is, you know, making a bigger tube with carbon doesn't make it heavier.
Right.
It just actually makes it more stronger.
Yeah.
So, you know, we go with those tube diameters to give the bike better weight to the rear end and how big that is, to give better strength to the overhanging BB system that we have there.
It's quite a low bottom bracket height as well.
Yeah, and it's super low, and that's why we put that massive bash guard in there. It's almost like a moto skid plate, right? And that's where I was looking at my YZ250. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put that on there.
One of the ideas you had, you're like, put that on there, that'll work.
Exactly. But you know, it is meant to run at 25% sag versus where everything else is really 30% sag, and that's, you know, so we look at static numbers, but we really need to start looking at dynamic numbers, which is geometry at sag. And so we haven't started publishing that stuff yet, but we're really looking at geometry at sag more so than geometry at static.
Right, okay.
Just don't tell it too many people, guys.
No one listens to this thing, dude. It's just gonna be me and you and John.
Don't be so hard on yourself. So, you know, there's a lot of small nuances like that and things we learn through the development process that help make each bike better than the last.
Right, yeah. But there's quite a long road to market as well, though. So how long does it take? If you get some feedback on this bike, which maybe does need changing, can that be done almost instantly, or are you a couple of years ahead of yourself?
Aluminum's a lot easier.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's other factors like how many bikes do we have in the market?
Yeah.
You know, what new components are there? Do we need to change it? You know, so there's all kinds of factors. It's a bit insane. It's, you know, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, they just wanted to make a new bike, but no, it's like, you know, we had to make a new bike because a component came out with SRAM came out with a new component that's going to obsolete the old bike, so we got to make a new spec, or like you know, lots of factors play into that, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, I was
really.
going to say, yeah. So you spec the bikes as well? Is that your job?
That's correct. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
and the spec on I've got the 9.
Yep. So that's a kick-ass full Fox spec.
Yep.
I like that one. That's my favorite one.
It's good, man. I was stoked, man. Really stoked when I rode the medium version on an industry ride about a month ago, and then obviously me and John got chatting, and he sent a large.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really helped, like getting on the large. The medium I felt was super poppy. You could throw that thing around easy. The large, a little bit harder, obviously, because it's a bigger bike, but I love 2 bottle cages. That's good. I'm into that, man. I'm into that, for sure. That's really cool. But yeah, like I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed riding it, man.
Awesome.
What else is coming up for Marin in the future? Is there anything you can...
Well, you know, we're here at the 2020 dealer launch, and there's a lot of exciting stuff we can show you
there.
there. So obviously we can't talk about it yet.
Yeah.
I don't know when this podcast is going live, so I can't really spill the beans. But yeah, we got a lot of exciting stuff down the pipeline. E-bikes are a hot topic, so you'll see some new stuff from there. But yeah, it's we don't want to forget about the analog and acoustic bikes and realize that there's people riding both. So yeah. But really expanding the line and making sure that Marin has offerings, you know, because we're kind of a small company and we're still trying to fill those product holes and gaps in the line to make sure we can get the floor space and get the dealers and get the consumers excited.
I feel like Marin as a brand is on a bit of a surge forward though. That's what it feels like from the outside looking in.
Sweet. That's good, because we've been pushing real hard.
Yeah, for sure though. You know, you've got some amazing athletes on board. You know, Matt Jones is rolling around here. He must be doing wonders for the brand.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
On that side, I think you've got Nicky, AJ, local guy.
Yep, Martha's fantastic. Got Matt Cohen in the USA,
Vero.
rapping EWS. Yeah,
So
Vero blowing up.
team. Yeah,
and that's all, that really is, the marketing team is doing really, really well with that.
Yeah.
But a lot of riders approach us.
Really?
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
It is.
They're like, hey, you guys are doing some cool stuff. I want to get on board. And Matt Jones was actually in that case. He hit up John.
No way.
And because, you know, we didn't make a dirt jump bike at the time. We weren't really thinking about that. But it was almost too good of an opportunity to pass up. And frankly, with our made for fun mantra, it really fits well. And he's just such a stand-up guy.
Yeah, for sure.
So
cool.
But
All right, man. Well, perfect segue into the marketing stuff as well.
wonderful, yeah. Couldn't
You're
have
like
been
a
better.
natural at this, dude. All right, thanks for doing this, dude. I really appreciate it. Thanks
my
for,
pleasure.
taking the time out, and we'll hand over to John Oldale. Marketing.
Joel
Dale. Cheers, dude.
Cheers.
Easy.
Right, let's do it. How does
All
this
right.
work?
So, like I was saying to Matt, like there's no real plan, dude, with this. We're
Okay.
just going to rip it a little bit.
So is that already recording?
Yeah, well, let's just go from here.
Okay. Sweet. We're on.
Drop it in.
We're
Dude, I've
on.
wanted to get you to do this for ages, though.
Thank
Legit.
you. I'm probably a little bit nervous about doing it, but I listen to it a lot.
Thank you.
I
I
listen
appreciate
to it a
that.
lot, so
I
it's
appreciate
an honour
that.
to be on here.
We need
Yeah.
to do something next, which is just not all about one bike or whatever.
Yeah.
We just sit and riff it out, because I think we could have some fun.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds
Don't
good.
look at me ominously like, I don't know. Trust me, you get over that hurdle. I found that it takes about an hour.
Okay,
And
that's
then
good.
things really chill, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
obviously we're not going to have an hour today, because people, well, we might do.
I don't know if people want to hear me crack on for
But
an
it
hour.
does, it's like an hour and you just like, oh, just chill.
Yeah, cool.
John Oldale,
That's me.
marketing manager.
Yes, something like that. I
Yeah.
think technically international marketing manager at Marin Bikes.
Okay.
Although most people know it as Marin Bikes, but
I do, to be fair,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
Marin.
yeah, it's Marin. Yeah, if you're
Okay.
from Marin County, if you're from Northern California,
Marin.
definitely keen on it being called Marin. So
Okay,
yeah,
alright.
but as long as you're talking about it, I'm happy.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, exactly. So you've been really helpful with this whole thing, the whole podcast in general, but also getting the Mount Vision out to me to ride.
Yeah.
So I just talked to Matt about it. You know, the whole ethos behind this series is to go behind the bike, the people that have made this thing come to market.
Yeah.
So I guess in some respects, we've just heard from Matt talking about the actual design process, how he's worked with Nail to get it to market. And it's been super interesting for me because I really tried hard to not read any reviews about that bike. Got it delivered, which I was stoked on. I didn't think it would be brand new when it turned up. I was double stoked on that, so thank you. Took it out of the box. I really tried to not look at anything
Yeah.
because I wanted it to be my reaction and what I thought of this bike. And I was honestly overwhelmed. It's sick. It's a really,
Cool.
really, really good bike. And I think going in there without those preconceived notions has helped because
Yeah.
then you get a real feeling for what it's like.
So that's kind of interesting you say that. Like we, you know, without upsetting anyone, you know, there are a lot of experts on the internet.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with this bike, we're aware that it looks a little bit different to other bikes that are out there. And we've kind of just let the internet experts have their say. And we haven't risen to anything or even tried to defend anything or explain anything. We just let them have their way. And then what we have been doing is we've been going to demo days and various events, and we've been just letting people go out and ride them. You know, we haven't been giving them the spiel. They've been going out and riding them, and then letting them come back and give us their opinion.
Yeah.
And I would say 9 times out of 10, it is similar to what you were saying. We even had someone, a brand owner from a pretty edgy brand who make fantastic high-end bike, and again something quite unique. He came over, you know, and he asked us a bit about it and took it out for a ride, you know, and he came back and he was like, well, the one thing I will say is I don't agree with your geometry ideas, but the one thing I will say is that suspension system works, which was really cool, you know. And we're just, it's kind of not really our style to big up ourselves. If people want to talk to us about it, we will. And otherwise, you know, just get out and ride it. And if you like it, you like it. And if not, then just go ride something
100%.
else.
It's interesting you say that because I think, where do we go with this without calling anything out? So I went to another bike launch a while ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I was in a different situation, I was a punter buying a bike, you know, I'd read reviews.
Yeah.
I would try and demo one. I think that's really important nowadays because so many demo events available to people. But one thing that came away, I went on this bike test and there were people there that should not be testing that bike at all. And those people are then going to write a review about that bike.
Yeah.
And someone is going to go, I'm going to spend $7,000 on something because of what this person said.
Yeah.
And I came away from that. It's the first event like that I've ever done. I came away from it thinking, what on earth is this about? Like, this is crazy. And I think one thing I want people to take away from this series is, we're talking about behind the bike and all the development that's gone into it and stuff, but also to like really read reviews, but go and ride the bloody thing because again, like you said with the Mount Vision, you might walk past that in a dealership because you don't like it,
Yeah.
because it is quite a polarising bike, right? But once you ride one, it's legit. Like it does work. Like, you know.
Yeah, you know, and so it's our second nailed or second bike using the nail platform. The first one, the Wolf Ridge, it is a really different bike, and I think we probably could have done a better job of explaining who the target market for that bike was. You know, it's a 29er, 160 mil travel bike, and I think straight off the bat people just assume, oh, that's an enduro bike or it's an all-mountain bike or whatever. And what we were doing with that bike is we tried to create something that maybe someone wants to go out and ride, kind of an all-day single track bike, you know, for riding. Big adventures. And because of that, you know, like that's kind of reflected in the geometry and also the spec on it. But because that pedal platform on there is so good, we were able to put that extra travel on there. You know, it's a little bit more comfort when you want it. I've heard it called, a trail bike with long legs, I think one journalist called it, which is a good way of describing it. But yeah, we probably could have done a better job of explaining that. And I think a lot of people jumped on that and they went, wait a minute, this hasn't got a 63-degree head angle. Oh. So we went back to the drawing board with the Mount Vision, and we went, right, okay, so that's clearly one market we've done the Wolf Ridge for, and now the Mount Vision, we need to do it for more, you know, that person who wants to be playing around on the bike, they want to be in the bike park, they want to be hitting berms and stuff, and so that's what we've done with the Mount Vision. So it's got a little bit less travel, but the geometry, 150. It's a 150. The geometry is a little bit more aggressive, and it's just aimed at a different style of rider, and we've made sure we got that style of rider onto the bike, and they're out there raving on it.
That's pretty much the feedback I had though. Like when I first rode it, I was like, this thing, we talked about it on the phone, I was like, this thing's super poppy, you can throw it wherever you want to throw it, accelerates out of berms fast, and don't get me wrong man, I'm not the best rider on the planet at all, but I could feel that in it. And again, this whole journey that we're doing with this behind the bike thing, I want to get better at understanding bikes and how they work. So that's kind of the vibe of what I want to go through. But yeah, it's weird because then I read reviews and some people were saying the opposite thing, and I was like, what do you? But you know, importantly, go out and ride it, ride one, see for yourself, and have it set up properly as well. It's kind of important.
Yeah, that is super key on
the sag on these. Is,
it's got to be like pretty much bang on 25%. And it's you know, like we got Nicky Wiles onto the Wolf Ridge pretty early on, you know, and he's a pretty modern style of rider, pretty progressive rider, and he, you know, so he was able to provide feedback that was implemented straight into the Mount Vision, and he was a key part of it. So now that, you know, we've got a bike that a progressive rider like Nicky is really happy with, but then we've also got a rider like Nicky out there proving that, you know, the bike is capable of doing all this stuff. And he absolutely loves it.
Really?
I mean, he's raced it, ridden it and raced it in America. You know, he's had it out in Eastern Europe. He's here today on it. So he loves it. And then Veronique Sandler, she was kind of our face for the bike when we launched it. You know, again, she's doing amazing stuff on it. She's just done a video Adidas are about to release a video. Where she's riding like some pretty progressive stuff on it. So, you know, again, it's just showing that there's this bike. It is capable of doing this stuff, and you know, maybe what you read on the internet isn't always true. So
it's true. Let's unwind things a little bit though. New bike is coming to market. When does your job like kick in? When do you start doing your side of things? As marketing, such a broad term. Marketing. Probably don't have enough coffee here, man, to talk about.
We need to click our fingers, get some coffee over. So when does? Well, it depends on the product really, but in this particular case, it was okay. So how does this work? So typically about February, March time, like at Marin, there's kind of a core group of product kind of people who discuss product before it gets handed over to the product manager, or the route of the style of products we should be looking at. So the bike gets discussed. This one, you know, it was sort of a 2-3 year project. So we were aware of it a little bit further out than that, but we sat down that meeting like, right, okay, these are the key bikes that are going to be coming up. And then so myself and Chris, who is our brand director, we can then go away and go, okay, right, cool, what are we going to look to do with this bike?
Yeah.
And then we just start sort of planning from that point. And then about October time is when Chris and I will sit down and we go, okay, this is going to be the next calendar year marketing plan. And we're going to have some key product focuses that may involve a launch, they may involve, you know, a video, they may involve anything really. That's the cool thing about marketing, is it's about being creative.
Yeah, yeah. But quite proactive rather than reactive, so you're sort of looking ahead.
Yeah. So you can go to the sales team and then say, okay, sales team, these are the tools we're going to provide you, so you can then go out and sell this product. So obviously it was going to be a big bike for us. So we started planning pretty early on, and there's a few things that we wanted to do. So we knew the Wolf Ridge had obviously launched, and perhaps we needed to get across that this bike was for a different market. So we've got a few awesome, we've got 8 awesome riders on our roster, one of which is Vero, Veronique Sandler, who's on her way up. So we really wanted to do something with her because she's just a really stylish rider, progressive
making
rider.
waves as well, man.
Exactly. Yeah. And we also thought it'd be kind of cool to like launch a bike with a girl being the kind of the face of the bike, which, you know, not that many people have done so far. So we wanted to do that. And then we wanted to do, you know, a lot of sort of launch videos. There seems to be this template in mountain biking where everyone produces a video, and you know, it kind of works. But yeah, so anyway, we wanted to follow that template to a certain extent. So we went to Joe Bowman, Steel City.
Shout out Joe.
Shout out Joe. And kind of said, like, here's the deal. And the cool thing with Joe is, like, you go, right, Joe, here's what we want to do. What do you think? And he'll just come back with like some amazing idea. And you can just trust him to just make it happen. So he came back with a video idea that he'd actually been wanting to do for quite a while. And he could see it working with this. So we were like, yeah, cool, let's do it. So we filmed that in, I remember it being really cold. I think it must have been January, December.
I think it was. I think whenever Matt Jones was on my podcast, actually.
Was it?
Yeah. Because Joe had been filming with him a couple of days after.
So Joe went out. He spent like 3 days shooting. He had Chris Seeger helping him, again, like phenomenal filmer, editor. And then we got Rue Fowler on taking the photos. So again, you know, we knew we were going to get some pretty unique but really stylish photos. So those guys went out and created the content, which meant we then had that in the, you know, that piece was done. And then I guess the next thing is actually getting the bike out to media and getting people riding on it. So when the embargo lifts, the bike's there, you know, it's everywhere. So there's a really cool event that kind of goes on behind the scenes called Bike Connection.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's organised by 2 guys, Simon and Julio, and they have 4 a year, 2 for road bikes and 2 for mountain bikes. So the mountain bike one is actually one's on right now, and then they have the other one in February.
And where are they at?
So the one that's on right now is in North Italy. And then the one that we went to in this particular case was in Tuscany.
Right.
So, yeah, pretty sweet.
Okay.
So, but anyway, so the way Bike Connection works is they get, let's say, like 10 to 15 brands come on site. Then they get about 15 to 20 journalists from all over the world, all come to like one venue that's got riding on site, it's got accommodation, it's got food. So you've got all of these people in one place.
Wow.
And then you get, you take it, each brand takes it in turns to sort of have 45 minutes with each journalist. And then in the afternoon, the journalists go off and ride your product, whether that's a bike, a set of wheels, a set of forks, whatever it is. And then on site, you've got filmers, photographers, and this goes on for like 3 or 4 days. And so it means that when everyone leaves, all the journalists leave, they've got everything they need to go out and push whatever it is that you're promoting.
Right. And you've set a date in advance. This is when the embargo lifts.
And the other cool thing about it is that like the journalists and the brands, you know, you're having beers in the evening together, and it's just a great way to do a launch. So we've done a couple of launches with the Bike Connection guys, and this was pretty key for this one to be a success. So so we went along there. We took about, I think, 15 bikes, 15 Mount Visions with us.
Right.
Went down to Tuscany. We may or may not have snuck in a couple of days riding before.
How dare you?
Yeah.
You're riding a bike and working in the industry.
Exactly.
What the hell?
Yeah. So and that actually, if you ever get a chance to go ride Punta Ala Trail Centre,
Okay.
that's the
that one?
check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, that place is amazing.
Right.
Like literally 45-minute buff, flowy, single track downhills. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
Tough couple of days in the
Yeah,
office.
it's a tough job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes it really is, man.
So what else did we do? So alongside Bike Connection, we then went out to a couple of other, I guess, key media partners.
Okay.
That we know we get on well with them. We know they've got good reach. We know what they do, and they wouldn't be at Bike Connection. So we got them bikes, and so they would also have an opportunity to shout about the bike. And then the embargo typically lifts. You then make sure you've got some of your sponsored riders are on the bike, so they're there shouting about
And you
it.
coordinating all that as well with social media guys and everything. Wow.
Yeah. So on our Mount Vision, the guys we have so Matt Jones rides one, Veronique rides one, Nikki rides one, and then we've got Matt Cohen, who's kind of a young EWS rider out of the US, so he rides one as well. So we've got those 4 guys and Gil out there pushing the bike.
Yeah.
And then after that, we kind of hand it over to the distributors or perhaps our local sales agents, local marketing teams, and they take it out, go to demos, get it to kind of more of the localized media, and then just kick back and let the sales roll in.
Start counting money from
there. Exactly. We'll all move to an island in the Caribbean.
Something like that.
So this bike, it was really cool, and it was really
different challenges as well because it's quite unique.
Yeah, I think with this bike, people are pretty harsh to it. It's like if you see someone walking down the street who looks a bit different, you don't go and tell them what you think, but for some reason it's okay to go on certain forums and websites and give your professional opinion on a bike without actually riding it.
True.
Cool, whatever, if people want to do that, but
I was saying to CP, it's like one of those bikes, if you go for a beer after you've been riding in the pub, everyone will talk about that bike, which is quite good as well though. Everyone's got an opinion on it.
Yeah.
And personally, I love it. Honestly,
cool.
I genuinely do. I think it's like the whole motor-inspired sort of swing-on vibe.
Yeah,
I think it looks sick.
Yeah, the system works.
Yeah.
Darryl, the guy who developed the nail system, I mean, he's a genius.
Yeah. 20 years in developing that system.
Yeah, and it does work, but it does look a little bit different. But I don't know that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all.
One of the really cool things about it for us is, so as Marin, we relaunched. Was it now probably 5 years ago? And when you relaunch a brand, you can't just have all of the bikes done overnight. You've got to kind of rework them all. So we started off with our pavement kind of commuter bikes, and then we got round to our mountain bikes. And then the time that we launched the Wolf Ridge, so when was that? 2.5 years ago or something. Was about the same time that we had loads of other interesting things going on with our kind of alloy full suspension range.
Okay.
So what it meant was that we, as a brand that people hadn't necessarily really looked at for either before or just for a long time, they were looking at this, I don't want to use the word game changing, but this different, unique, this unique bike, and they're like, oh wait, Marin, I remember those guys, or
my dad
who are
them.
yeah, exactly, or who are these guys? But they then went and delved deeper into the range that we did, and they were like, oh, okay, cool. So they make all these other styles of bikes, and maybe that one would work for me, and they sponsor person X who is doing cool stuff, so I'm going to see what they get up to, and so I think from that point of view, it worked really well for us, and we have a pretty broad range of bikes. We've got a strong range of alloy full suspension bikes. We've got some really cool gravel drop bar bikes. And then we've got some pretty...
That new dirt jump bike.
The Alcatraz.
That thing's nice, that's cool, really cool.
That's really cool. We're lucky enough to have some pretty sweet riders. and Matt Jones when he's not got a flat tire. That goes pretty well for us actually.
Yeah.
And, bikes like that, we just kind of just leave in the hands of Matt and Nikki and Veronique, and we've got a guy in Canada called Mark Matthews, who's just out of this world. I mean, he's just a content machine, but really, really high quality. But yeah, anyway, so like those guys, we just basically give those bikes and they just go out and do their thing.
Make their own things and stuff.
People go into dealers and ask for them. So that's pretty straightforward marketing when you can just hand it off like that.
You have a day off that week.
Yeah.
So marketing, really broad term, isn't it? Let's be honest, super broad.
Yeah.
And I like talking about marketing because I feel like we were talking before about doing the podcast is kind of a form of marketing, and it's something that when I started Hook It, I never really was that keen on this stuff, marketing or anything like that. But I've like grown into this sort of position of doing the marketing and also sales as well, obviously. But so as a marketing manager for quite a big company, are you always looking for this new up and coming thing if anything's happening? We've seen, like you said before, a lot of athletes doing behind the scenes vlogs or podcasts, for example, or whatever. It must be hard to always be trying to do that, something a little bit new.
So I guess, so one thing I really look to the snowboarding world. I think those guys just,
they're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, they're ahead of the curve, and they're always a couple of levels above anything that we do in the cycle industry, and they're always doing some pretty interesting and cool stuff. I think the cool thing about marketing is it's about being creative, and as long as it's a tool for sales, and as long as you can be creative in a productive way that's going to support sales, then I think it's
doing your job almost.
So I look a lot to the snowboard side of things. My colleague Chris, who is wandering around here, he's awesome. He's been involved in marketing bikes for years, and like we do a lot of traveling to events together, and I'd say we work as a pretty good team together. He might say otherwise, so we spend a lot of time just talking about ideas, and sometimes you try something and it doesn't work, and then you learn something. And sometimes
is there anything you've done which hasn't worked? Is there an example? Oh, no one saw it.
There's not at this company, but
where were you before?
I was at where was I? What company was I? I was at Fox before.
Oh right.
Yeah. So I was European mountain bike marketing manager at Fox for a few years before this. So I definitely made a few balls ups there. But
less said about
probably
that.
not anything they want me to talk about. But you're always learning, and the cool thing with Marin is it's such a small team. I think like globally we're like 30, maybe 35 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so everyone's input is really valuable, and then you can always talk about ideas with people, and there's lots of different experiences from different places, and so what was I can't even remember what the original question was.
Like looking at different things in the marketing world.
Yeah, so the other thing, data. Like I'm a real big data geek, and a couple of our riders, especially Matt, like I'm always on at him, like, oh, like there's this, that, and you were doing this month and stuff, and
you must be impressed, dude, with that. His vlog gets phenomenal views, doesn't it?
His vlog definitely.
I know it's a lot of work, no doubt. It's a hell of a lot of work putting that amount of content out. But I remember when I was researching for him coming on the show, I was like, fuck, this is getting real downloads. You know what I mean? It's got a real audience behind it.
Yeah, and he's I think he's found his niche there. He really enjoys it, and he's got. So earlier this year, just give an example of what his following is. Earlier this year, we went to visit our Australian distributor and our New Zealand distributor, but our Australian distributor, and we landed in Sydney, and it was like whatever it is, 27-hour flight or whatever, and we're waiting for our bags, and there's dribble coming out of our mouths. And anyway, like this mum comes up to Matt and is like, "Excuse me, are you Matt Jones?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, like my kid loves you. Like I'm but he's just too shy to come and talk to you. And
No
like within
way.
like 2 seconds, Matt had like pulled his Red Bull hat out of his bag and had just like switched on to like Matt Jones, the ambassador, and spent the next hour and a half talking to this kid.
Wow.
And he was just like, wow.
That's rad.
Like, yeah, and then on the same trip to Sydney, we popped into like downtown Sydney or whatever, just to go and see the Sydney Opera House. And we got off the ferry, and like this kid was like, "Oh my God, it's Matt Jones!" Wasn't even a kid that was into biking, but like had spotted him.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
so yeah, and yeah, he's been absolutely amazing to us, or for us, I should say. And like, you know, he's really like become one of the Marin family. You know, he's a big part of the team, and he helped Sippy develop the San Quentin, which is, you know, has been a huge success of a bike for us. Then obviously the Alcatraz, and he's, you know, events like this, like a launch, you know, he can come in and he can talk to a 5-year-old kid, or he can talk to like a CEO of a multi-million-pound bike shop. You know, he can do both ends of the spectrum, and he's pretty cool. Yeah.
Awesome. What else, man? What else we got to talk about? Was the launch successful of the Wolf Ridge, would you say? Sorry,
of the Mount Vision. Yeah, it was real successful. It was real. I guess it's always hard to quantify a launch. You know, you've got to look at sales straight away, or that is really the only way you can quantify it. But then you're looking at sales of a $6,000 to $9,000 bike, whichever currency you're in. You know, so it's you're not going to launch something and then sell tens of thousands of it. But we've launched it. We've definitely sold a fair few of them, and you know, people are pretty excited. The people who bought it have been pretty excited on it.
I was talking to Drew. Do you know Drew? Drew from Lone Wolf.
I do, yes, yeah.
Drew Roday?
Yeah.
He loves it. Like,
yeah.
We were chatting last night actually, and he was saying like he legit loves that bike.
Yeah.
I think it's game changing.
Yeah, and when you've got someone like that talking about it, it's like, you know, like his opinion's super valid to me. And so Chris, my colleague, he did something really cool with Drew last year, where he actually did like a custom painted Wolf Ridge.
Yeah, for the Wolfpack giveaway.
And they gave away, and that was really well received.
Yeah,
like people, the guy who won it, like we see him about quite a bit. And he's pretty into
looks
it.
sick that they do. That's so cool. It's a good idea. That's good marketing. That.
Yeah, so you know, like we've got like some media outlets, journalists that we get on really well. We've had real good relationships with them, and that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get a good review because they're professional, you know.
But I think that's definitely what people from the outside looking in think, though.
I
did. I'll be honest with you. Like I thought, just about how hard you can brown nose, and then you'll get a good review. Or how much you can pay.
Exactly. Yeah. People think you buy adverts, you get a review, and it's not the case at all. You know.
I used to think that though, and it was only when we started this business and started sending some stuff to the likes of, let's say MBUK for example. We've never advertised in MBUK, but we got like a really good review of a bar and stem at the time. And people might think, they've just paid for that. Like,
no, it's not. It's not the case at all. No. And it's really cool that that's not the case because otherwise, like the big dogs would just be winning everything. And But so we've got like some journalists that, like, you know, we have really good relationships with, and we know we can go and we can talk to them. And you know, in this particular case where it is a little bit of a polarizing bike, and we knew from the offset that it would be, you know, we can go and say, okay, cool, well, this is what we've done, this is what we're doing, and let's go out for a ride, and you know, let's talk you through it and stuff. And that just allows you to basically give the bike, or any bike, the best chance from the offset. And it, you know, it doesn't necessarily need to be a Mount Vision. It can be a 500-pound commuter bike. You know, you still want to go through that same process with the journalists and make sure that they're getting all of the tools, all of the information that they need to give the best, I guess, journalistic review on the product, so the bike.
For sure.
Yeah, so that is pretty key to us. And plus, it's also you get to go out riding with them, typically in that situation, which is what it's all about.
A bonus as well,
we all work in this industry because we like riding bikes.
So. And it definitely does change at some point where you're like, I'm not riding a bike anymore. I definitely have done that. And this is, again, part of doing this series. It's trying to, I said it ages ago on the podcast actually, about just trying to relight that fire of, like, for me, bikes have been a bit of a stress for quite a while because of the business and, you know, everything through the day as mountain bikes, then you get home and it's like, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I don't even want to see one. I just want to turn off. I want to go do something totally different. So I'm going through this whole thing of just trying to like relight the fire again. And remember, like, why did he get into this? And again, I want to go on this journey of like trying to really learn about bikes. So I'm quite naive. I know you're quite a data-driven guy, but I'm not at all. Even when it comes to geometry and stuff, I just go, oh, that looks cool. And you know, I'm by no means a Matt Jones or an AJ Jones or whatever, but I can ride a bike, and I'd like to think I can just jump on anything and ride it. But I want to know how to really understand what's going on underneath me, you know.
I think that is super important. I think you know, ultimately bikes need to be set up differently for different people in order for you to have fun. And if you can understand what you need to do to set that bike up in order for you to put a smile on your face, that's going to decide whether you have a good time on a bike or not. You know,
definitely.
Let's face it, all bikes today are pretty
good.
decent.
They are, aren't they? It's hard to buy a bad one. Really difficult it is. But again, I think that definitely people should go demoing, because there's so many demos you can do now as well. And if anyone out there listening can go ride a Mount Vision, don't ride it off, just go ride it. It's pretty sick.
But just to go, like, there's another point you just made before, like that, you know, you've come onto this side of the industry, and I think a lot of people think that we pretty much just hang out, drink beer, and ride bikes, and that's just not the case. You know, like it's probably couldn't be further from the truth. You know, like there's this 3-month period through the summer where you are, you know, you're out there, you're trying to promote your bikes and getting other people to ride your bikes, and you're actually riding, you know, less and less. And you know, like last week I was at Crankworks Innsbruck, and you know, to the untrained eye, that's probably like, wow, hanging out in Crankworks for like 4 days, and you're like, actually I was under a pop-up tent for 4 days. I mean, I did get like, I think 3 or 4 runs, or we tried to do 1 run a day, but like sadly...
When we first met there at Crankworks Leger, that was probably the most stressed I've ever been.
Really?
100%. I think, because I just threw myself in at the deep end, creating this product for Crankworks. Really, I had no idea what I was doing. Was staying like a 1.5 mile walk out of town, so every day I was walking in and out. No equipment with me at all, really. I wasn't prepared, and just stressed all day, just trying to like find athletes to do things with. And again, from the outside looking in, he's at Crankworks having a great time. Like, no, I was stressed to fuck. Like, I felt, it was pretty scary.
So that Leger Crankworks last year, that's when we launched our Alpine Trail, which is our kind of 150 29 alloy trail bike. So that bike we launched there. Also at Bike Connection, they had an event there, and we'd been at Crankworks Innsbruck the week before, and we'd handed it over to Enduro Mag. And for whatever reason, there was a little bit of miscommunication between us and the factory. And it turned out the rocker links on these Alpine trails were actually like CNC'd prototypes, and the factory didn't realize we were using them as riding samples, and we didn't know, and blah blah. Anyway, so Enduromag came back to us and they were like, I mean, this bike's really cool, but I just want to let you know all the bearings have fallen out. And we're like, what? So we were like straight onto the phone to the factory, just trying to figure out what had gone on. And we were leaving Innsbruck to drive through the night to get to Leger to set up to launch this bike at like midday the next day to like 15 journalists in the Alps. So you know the bike's gonna be ridden hard, and we've got these bikes with all the bearings falling out. And we're just like, what are we gonna do? So we're driving and we're just racking our brains. And anyway, so I know a few guys who live in Morzine, so called up Loic, who's actually the brand manager for Santa Cruz. So cheers, Loic. And he was like, this is what you need to do. There's this DIY store in Morzine, and they're going to sell liquid metal. So just get in there. So we drove straight into Morzine. Like at this point, we're meeting the journalists about an hour and a half from now. So we drove in. None of us really spoke French. We managed to figure out where this liquid metal was. We drove to where this car park in Leger that was a bit out of sight. We stripped all these bikes down, and me and Sippy were sat there with like literally rocker links, liquid metal, and bearings, like pushing these bearings in. And then but then we had to like get it all back together so that the pivot didn't actually seize on the liquid metal. Yeah, so anyway, we managed to repair all, I think, 5 or 6 of these bikes. And we just said to the journalist, look, hey, this is what's gone
This is what's
on.
happened, yeah.
If something happens whilst you're doing a lap, just let us know and we'll put you on another one. And believe it or not, like nothing happened.
No way.
The journalists all thought it was pretty hilarious. And actually one of those bikes is actually still being ridden to this day.
Really?
Yeah, this like liquid metal has just glued these
Did a
bearings
good job,
in.
man.
Yeah. So, and again, that was a really successful launch for us. Because of the bike connection system, it just really worked.
Sick.
So that was
Amazing.
that was a good one. The stuff that goes on behind the scenes, people don't see that necessarily.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to bring some of that out with these things as well.
Yeah, I'm
Definitely.
sure there's a lot of brands have got probably a lot more
Funny
stories like that.
Rad. All right, dude. Been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Do a longer
likewise.
one at
Thank
some
you, man.
point.
Yeah, definitely.
sit and riff it
Definitely.
out,
I've got a few stories that might
Yeah, I know. You've been on the scene for a while, right?
probably a little bit too long. A few incriminating stories, but yeah.
Let's do it. Next
Yeah.
time we'll just catch up and hang out for a bit.
All right,
Do
cool.
something. All right.
Thanks, man.
Easy.
Cheers.
Peace.
All right, guys, there you have it. The first Behind the Bike episode is in the bag. If you have enjoyed listening, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. If you want to find out more about the Marin Mount Vision, there are links in the show description. There is a link to the website. There is a link to the dealer locator. So if you want to go ride one, you can find your local bike shop. Everything, the blog post I've written, a load of photos, the whole stuff is down in the show description. So just find the links and click the relevant one. If you would like a bike featured on Behind the Bike, then let me know. Reach out, slide into the DMs. If you're a manufacturer and you want to find out more about how we get this thing rolling, just reach out too. You can drop me an email. It's Davy, DAVI, at hookitproducts.co.uk. That's HOOKIT products.co.uk. Shoot me an email. No doubt we can figure something out. And that's it. Again, appreciate you guys listening. If you have enjoyed, let me know. I know I've said that already, but this is the People's Podcast. It is made for you guys. I want to make cool stuff that you want to listen to. So yeah, any ideas, shoot them over. Any feedback, shoot it over. And enjoy your weekend. It's been a blast. Take care and peace out.